Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Mr. Wiz here. If you are new to this channel, we build video games. So we've been building a lot of games in MakeCode Arcade, and I have an entire series that'll teach you how to do that if you are new to this website. Right now, we are working on extensions, which allow us to improve our games in some pretty fun and creative ways. So today we're going to be looking at background scrolling. The background scrolling extension is one of my personal favorites because it's pretty easy to use and it really can add a lot of flavor to your games and make them just better looking, right? So what I have right now behind me is the fish game that I made with, I did this in a couple different lessons. We did the lesson where we learned about animation and we did the aquarium. And then I came back to that program later on and I added some enemies and some food fish, and I used the scaling extension so that the shark would get bigger as you ate the fish, right? So that was the basic idea here, is that I'm trying to eat the fish and avoid the jellyfish. And this is the game that we built in that video. So the negative that I have about this game right now is that the background is completely still, right? I feel like this game would be better if I was actually swimming through the ocean. So we're going to do that with the background scrolling extension. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to work. So let's go ahead and get started. The extension section, if you go down, we are looking for background scrolling, which is this one right here. Arcade background scroll is what it is called. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And once I've added that extension, it shows up in the toolbox as its own category here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And there are several blocks in here, and we're going to touch on a few of these. So when it comes to background scrolling, there's a couple different ways you might want to do it. You have games where the background moves by itself, and then there are games where the background moves with the character. In this game, the entire game takes place inside this one scene. It's not a large game. It's just this one scene that everything happens in. So to make the game feel larger, I want the background to move on its own, regardless of what I'm doing. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab, there's a couple different ones here that say moving with camera, and then there's the one that just moves on its own. This is the one I'm going for. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put it after I create the image to scroll the background. And here I have a VX and a VY, which is velocity, right? So I'm picking which direction and which speed I want it to move in. So for this game, it only really makes sense for it to move left and right. So I don't need a VY. I'm going to set the VY to 0. And then you can see it's now scrolling. Now I just need to decide the direction and the speed, right? So 50 is not bad. I feel like maybe a little slower might be better for this game. So let's try maybe 20. Because I don't want it to feel like I'm racing through the ocean. I just want it to feel like I'm actually moving. Yeah, so 20 is not bad. Okay, so it is scrolling correctly. We are running into our first problem, though. So as you look, I want you to notice this edge. You guys see that edge right there? That edge is where the right side of the screen and the left side of the screen match. Or where they touch, I should say. But right now, they don't line up very well. So you can see this very blatant line right there because the edges don't line up. Whenever you are using background scroll, it is important that your edges line up. So if we're looking here, the coral reef is lower on this side than it is on that side. So we have to fix that. And we also have the problem with the light being different colors. So it's bright over here and it's dark over here. So we're going to have to fix that. And we're going to need to make sure that it lines up correctly or it's not going to look good. All right. So first thing I need to do is I need to decide how I want to go ahead and match this. Do I want to make this side shorter? Do I want to make this side taller? I'm thinking I'm going to make, I think I'm going to make this side shorter. Okay. So the important part is that both edges need to line up. Both sides need to match. So if I put my mouse on any particular square and I look down in the bottom left corner where it says 160 and 120, it will tell me the position. So I'm looking at the second number because the first number is the X position. The second number is the Y position. So the coral here, the top of the coral is, it says 159, 51. So 51 is the number I'm looking for. So I need this side to also stop at 51. So I'm going to go ahead and put my mouse there and try to find 51. There it is. And I'm going to mark that, and that's the top of my coral. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw a little line there. So that's where my coral needs to stop, right there, where the Y is 51. So I need to erase this coral above it. So I'm just going to use the pencil tool, and I can go with a larger size. Just kind of erase. Oop, too much. There is an undo button right there. I'm using a touchpad, so it's a little hard to draw with a touchpad, but you can totally do it. I can also use a bucket fill tool. That might be easier for that part. There we go. So I'm just trying to reshape the coral so that it lines up with the other side. Make sense? So yeah, that's not bad. There we go. Okay, so now I need to fix the part with the ocean. So now the coral lines up. I need my ocean stuff to line up as well and also be the same color. So this is going to be a little bit trickier. Oh yeah, look at that. So now I've got a great little game here. So because the background's moving, it adds a little bit more life to my game. It makes me feel like I'm swimming through the ocean even though I'm not, right? Keep in mind the characters, they haven't changed at all. They're still staying in one part of the screen. The jellyfish, the shark, the fish, nothing about them has changed. But the fact that the background's moving adds more life to my game, adds more realism to my game. You could do the same thing in the asteroid game that we built a while back, right? So with the asteroid game, the asteroids are coming towards us, and our character really isn't moving at all. He's just staying stationary. But because the asteroids are coming towards us, it creates that illusion that we're flying through the asteroid field. Even though all we're really doing is moving up and down, it looks like we're moving forward because the asteroids are moving towards us. But if we wanted that effect to be even stronger, we would do the same thing. We would grab the background scroll. We would create a background image. And in this case, I would probably just make it stars. So I would just keep it simple. Black stars, white dots. I'm sorry, black background, not black stars. Black background, white dots. And this, of course, is a lot easier to line up because black is everywhere. We don't have to worry about our picture lining up. There we go. We got some great stars. And I can put set background scroll on here. I decide which direction, right? So right now, it looks like it's moving like you're falling through space. If I just want it to look like I'm flying forward, I would leave the VY at 0. Now, alternatively, if the ship was flying up, the VY would be the number I care about, and the VX would be the number I don't care about, right? So now it looks like I'm actually flying with the asteroids, which is pretty cool, right? Not bad at all. But now the asteroids are speeding up and the stars haven't sped up. So maybe I want the stars to speed up with the asteroids. I could do that by taking the same block and putting it with the asteroids. So I could put that same background scroll in here. So when the asteroids speed up, the background scrolling speeds up as well. Make sense? I'm not going to do that right now because I'm trying to keep this video short. But I could do that and put that same block in each of these areas where the game gets harder. And it would... I could put that same block with the background scroll in here and have it speed up when the asteroids speed up, so it still match their speed. So there's a lot you can do just with that one block. We haven't even talked about the other blocks yet. So let's talk about the other blocks now. The other blocks were for when the background scrolls with the camera. So this would work in a game like the Mario game that we were building, right? So in the Mario game that we built, we have this background with the mountains. And right now the foreground moves, right? The bushes, the blocks, everything there moves, but the mountains don't. If I wanted the mountains to move with the player, I would use that block. Oh, I don't have it here because I haven't downloaded it on this version. Let me show you real quick. I'm going to jump over to another program that I made before I started recording because I wanted to show you guys what you could do with this if you actually spent the real time in it. Okay? So, scroll test, that's what I called it. So I want you to look at all these blocks that I have here. So what I have here is I have background scroll and I also have layers. So what I did is I grabbed the picture that was already in the background gallery that looks just like this. And what I did is I broke it down into layers. So the front layer is this first little mound with the trees. The second layer is the mound behind it with their trees. The third layer is the blue mound. Then the fourth layer is the green hill with the trees. And the very far back layer is the stars. Because what you can do with this extension is you can set to move with the camera, but you can also set the speed that it moves with the camera. And when you click on the plus sign, you can set that to a layer. So basically, down here, I set the image for each layer, and you can see it in my example here. So for layer 0, I put the stars. For layer 1, I put that hill with the trees. And I just did all this by editing the picture that was in the gallery, right? And I just erased the bits that were behind it. And I created my 5 layers here. And then for each layer, 0 is the bottom layer, 4 is the top layer, the layer closest to you. I set their speeds. So they're moving with the camera, but they're going to move at different speeds. So the stars actually don't move at all. I have their movement speed at 0. The next layer moves at 0.1. So it's moving 10% as fast as the camera moves. So 0.1 of the speed of the camera. This one moves 0.3, the speed of the camera. This one moves 0.5, the speed of the camera. This one moves 0.7, the speed of the camera. So each layer that is closer to the player moves faster than the layers before it. Okay? I know this might look a little bit advanced and a little bit complicated, but let me show you what happens. I set the closest layer to move faster than the layers behind it. And now look at this effect. This is a very realistic effect. In the real world, if you're moving, let's say you're driving down the road and you look outside your window, the objects that are closest to the car are the objects that seem to be moving the fastest. Objects farther away from you, like mountains and hills, they're going to be moving a lot slower. And then things that are really far away, like stars or the moon, it might not even seem like they're moving at all. This is awesome. This is really a cool way to improve the effects of a game. And it took me a little bit of time to do this because I had to edit each individual layer. That's why I did it before I started recording, because it took me a while to create my 5 layers. But look at the effect. Look at how cool that looks. The layers closest to the camera move fast. The layers farther away from the camera move slow. And I don't have any of the layers actually moving the same speed of the camera. I could do that if I really wanted to. So if you're building a game where maybe their first layer is right next to the player, maybe they're buildings that you're walking through a city, right? So you might have the closest layer moving at a speed of 1, which would be the same speed as the camera. You could even have it move faster than the camera if you wanted to. That would be a weird effect, but you could if you wanted to, right? So you can adjust the speed that the camera moves on each individual layer, and that gives you a really cool effect where you can have a multi-layered background. All right, anything else in here that we want to talk about? So I just talked about this. This block is pretty much the same thing as this. The only difference is with this one, you can't adjust the speed of the camera, right? So with what I showed you, you can adjust camera speed. With this one, it's just limiting the direction. It's not setting a speed. So I actually like this block better for the realism effect. All right, down here, you do have one for offset. So if you are building a game and you notice your background image doesn't really fit the game correctly, you can offset it. Offsetting it just moves it up or down wherever you need it to go, right? So if I decided looking at this that my trees were too high up and I wanted to move this farther down, I would change the offset, or I could go back and change the original image of the background, right? All right, so set image for layer is the one I showed you guys, where I did it right here for my 5 layers, starting with 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The z-index is not a block I would worry about. What the z-index does is it changes how far away from the camera the layers are, right? But honestly, it doesn't make a difference as long as you have them in the right order, okay? So the original order is that 0 is farthest away from you, 4 is closest to you. Unless you change the z-index, that will always work correctly. But if you change that, it could create some weird things, okay? So just keep that in mind. All right, so like I said, I'm going to keep this video short, so I've already done that. I would love to see what kind of layered effect backgrounds you can make. I would challenge you to go back to your Mario style game and create a multi-layer background for that because it looks really good on platformer games. Think about what do you want to be closest to the player and what do you want to be farthest away. Maybe the closest thing to the player is buildings, or maybe the closest thing to the player is bushes. So you could decide how you want to layer it, what's closest to the player, what's farthest away. And feel free, it's okay if you want to use my numbers, but you might want to use your own numbers. Decide what looks good, right? So you can decide what speed you want each layer to move to create an effect similar to mine. Just keep in mind, remember, whatever's closest to the player should be moving faster than the stuff that's farther away from the player. That creates the realism that you have here, right? The objects closer to the player should move faster than the objects further away. As long as that is set up correctly, you will have a very cool layered scrolling background effect. Okay, so I've said all I want to say about this extension. If you did build something you want to show off, please go ahead, click that button to copy the link to your game, post it in the comments, and let me see it. If you learned something new today, please click that like button. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe because there's a lot more coming. We haven't even finished the recommended extensions. After we finish the recommended extensions, which we're close to finishing, we've got a whole bunch others that are not even on this list that I'm going to show you guys. Some personal favorites that you have to know about to find pretty much. So I'm going to share those secrets with you guys once we finish this page. So make sure you're subscribed so you get access to those videos too. Okay, so until next time, I'll see you guys later.